to ask like a few questions of just like giving people a sense of what's happening here today. Just briefly going over tribal sovereignty, why it's important to implement that when there's corporations coming in for extraction, and just like what you see the long-term goal as.
I think when it comes to Navajo sovereignty, one of the things like I like to talk to and tell people is that you got to get permission from the tribe. In this case, the Navajo Nation. There was no permission granted, so it's a complete disregard for the nation. And then the second thing is look at the laws of the land. The laws of the Navajo Nation are very clear. We don't want uranium extraction. There's transportation regulations that are in place for uranium in 2012 that was set, and so those things weren't even looked at, and no notification was given to the president of the Navajo Nation. And that, as the leader of the largest Indian tribe in the country, that to me is very offensive. And when I go before Congress, I always let them know that I represent 1/3 of all Indians living on reservations. So by having that representation all across Indian country to represent 1/3, and you don't give no heads up to the leader, it's very disrespect. So, and I think that's why we had to move quickly, because in my opinion there was bad intentions of that, to not even notify the president of the Navajo Nation, and you're a quarter into the reservation and you're hauling, and they didn't even tell us. We had to go find it. We had to go text people, and we had to find that information, and we found out. And to me, that was just a complete disregard for Navajo sovereignty. And we're a nation of lands. We've got police, we've got EMT, we've got public safety, we've got fire, we've got laws, we've got judicial, legislators. You got my side, the executive branch. So to me, that's what tribal sovereignty is, to be able to stand up for yourself too. And that's what today was about, was to really showcase and exercise Navajo sovereignty. And we did it in a way, we did it in a very, we walked with prayer today. Some very good songs were sang, and the journey that we're going to take over these next several months, so that we can really do it in a good way. And I think that's how we've always done it as Navajo people. We do a prayer and song. And I'm so happy that on the walk today, that Mr. Max was able to share some of those sacred songs with us as we make the walk and make a stance.
And particularly with this area, it's been completely impacted with uranium mining since World War II, and with the Bennett Freeze particularly too. So how does creating a sort of community cohesion where everyone's coming together, how does that instill positivity within the community as far as those past histories that haven't been reclamated or haven't been talked about?
I think that's what's really important, especially on this side, is this, that we had 16,000 people relocated, you know what I mean? Displaced over 50 years ago. And those communities they're not thriving today. They're still hurting. That's the Bennett Freeze area. And then on top of that, you put uranium extraction and the ill, the disease, the respiratory challenges, and death that's associated with it. And to me, that's something you can unite around, because we need to. We got to bring that awareness and really unite, because no amount of money and no amount of these things is not going to really showcase what we can do when we come together. And I think that's what's real important, is that the western part of the Navajo Nation, the northern part of the Navajo Nation, especially the route. Because I'm from Red Mesa, my wife and I are from Red Mesa, so I literally came within miles of where we live, and we don't appreciate that too. And as what First Lady mentioned earlier, she's from Sweetwater, her dad's from Sweetwater, and there's mines, hundreds of mines in that area. So it's just very dear to all of us, and for all of us to come together collectively to fight and advocate for, to do what's right, clean up the mines, provide health care, provide consultation, mental health, things like that to the people that have been affected. I think that's what's right about today.
And last question, moving forward, right now your administration is taking a stance against uranium. Do you plan to take an additional stance against the hydrogen pipeline and also the reclamation areas in Black Mesa?
I think when it comes to Black Mesa, I know I've been working with several groups. I know we've given a building to one of them, and so that we're trying to be creative in terms of working with our nonprofits to make sure that that building that's going to be turned over to the nonprofit, that they can use it as an incubator and restart up those communities. And then as far as the reclamation that's happening, I'm waiting on some updates on that to make sure that they reclaim the land properly and it's done correctly. And then if there's any infrastructure or buildings that the community can use, I really want to make sure that they can take those buildings over. And then when it comes to the hydrogen pipeline, and I think that same thing, I try to educate myself on everything that I do. And obviously that's a decision of the Resource and Development Committee. It's a subcommittee of the Navajo Nation Council, and it's within their authority to approve that, so it's not even my authority. But I have expressed my support for that project because my support only comes with community benefits. If there's no community benefits, why even entertain it? You know what I mean? Sure, there's a lot of opportunities in it. There's a lot of opportunities because everybody's preaching clean energy all across the country and really trying to make sure that the communities benefit, because the last thing we want is a pipeline that just runs through a community and it's devastated and people are still in poverty. There's no public safety, there's no parks, there's no community, there's no scholarships, there's no housing. Why even entertain it if it's not going to bring our people home? And that's one of the things being a leader is that I want to see more people my age, more people First Lady's age. Right now, we're in Phoenix, we're in Albuquerque, we're elsewhere because that's where the opportunities are. And if we're gonna, like I said earlier, as a leader now, I try to negotiate the best deal possible for our people and our community. And I think that one of the things, if you fast forward or rewind maybe 80 years ago in the 40s when this actually started happening, imagine if we had more people that were educated, that were savvy, that went to business school, that went to all these things. That imagine if the nation, same thing with coal, we got the band-aid into that deal. Imagine if we would have negotiated better coal royalties, better land development, all of these things instead of getting pennies on the, not even a penny, like fractions of a penny coming into the nation, which isn't fair. We should have been one of the most powerful, economically thriving sovereigns, and not just the United States, the world. The amount of uranium that's been extracted out of the Navajo Nation, the amount of coal that's been extracted out of the Navajo Nation, we should probably be one of the most thriving economically communities in the world. But we're not. You look around, you know, it's like there's poverty, there's social ills, there's so much injustice, and we're always constantly trying to beg the government for resources to help us survive. And in moving forward, that's what I try to do. I try to make sure, you know what, I don't want to be what happened to us in uranium, what happened to us in coal. If those things would have gone our way, we could have, I don't know, we could have been worth trillions of dollars in this country, and we're not. So that's, and then in terms of other things, it's just I always try to make sure that we're very clear on what we're doing moving forward. But the main focus for me here is really fighting and advocating, making sure that this doesn't happen. Because
my last question is, recently Congress has discontinued funding for RECA for people who have been impacted by uranium. So how does this play in factor with that?
And I know that we tried to fight and advocate for Speaker Johnson to drop it on the floor, and so that people could actually vote on it, because that's all I needed to do. It passed the Senate, and I needed to just hit the floor of Congress and have congressional delegations vote on it. And it's very disappointing that we got that close. And so my hope is that, you know what, maybe there's an opportunity still. I know that Congress might come back in this session in, I think, September, and then maybe vote in November, December, and things like that. Let's put that back on the table and vote on it. And maybe this will bring that awareness that is needed.
Do you have any last comments or anything you would like to add?
I think the main thing is let's unite. Let's make sure we're fighting this together and supporting one another, and that's how we can really have the biggest impact.